There is a sentence in the diary of Young Flowers. What is the so-called marriage? Isn't it love and trust each other? Raising and educating children together, and building a happy family. In addition, the marital relationship is like a left and right hand, requiring each other to play their respective roles, helping each other in times of need. The path of life is not smooth sailing, and we will always encounter many setbacks. When setbacks come, some couples may choose that they are birds in the same forest, flying separately in the face of adversity, only considering their own interests and not caring about their relationship, while others will persevere until the end, living and dying together. Meeting the latter is your blessing. A year ago, her husband's family encountered a crisis. Despite her parents' opposition, Ms. Law took out a dowry of 100,000 yuan. Ms. Lua's self-statement. 7 years ago, when I was going to marry him, according to him, his biological father is not a good man. Not only is he unable to bear the responsibility of supporting the family, his meager income often leads his wife and children to live a life of scarcity, but also his male chauvinism is very serious. In his eyes, his wife is a free nanny, even if the mother-in-law doesn't do anything wrong, or even takes care of the family with due diligence, takes care of the children with filial piety, and takes care of the family's affairs in an orderly manner. His father drinks too much outside, encounters unpleasant things, or his wife asks him for money and the family can't get it out. In my impression, he would find reasons to punch and kick my mother every day. My mother went to the hospital 3 times. The 3rd time, the situation was very serious. If it weren't for me running to the neighbor's house for help, and the neighbor's uncle saved my mother, the consequences would be unimaginable. At that time, my husband was 10 years old, and his uncle forced my mother-in-law to choose between 2. Either you separate from him. In the end, the reason why my parents oppose me marrying him is because their impression of a single-parent family is too bad. My mother analyzed this to me. As a single mother, her son is the whole of her life. She is used to living around her son, and is afraid of not letting go easily. It is difficult for a single mother to protect herself and her son without being strong. However, once she brings this kind of strength into the mother-in-law-daughter-in-law relationship, after listening to my words, I did hesitate. After all, I often see news about conflicts between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law online, and I am very worried about the relationship between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. On the one hand, after discussing with my husband for 3 years, I still have a certain understanding of him. He has an independent mind, a strong ability to take care of himself in life, a strong sense of responsibility and love, and is willing to help others. He has a good reputation among friends, and in my opinion. On the other hand, I have had multiple contacts with my mother-in-law and visited his house several times. My mother-in-law gave me the feeling of being a kind mother, a strong and admirable mother. She is very kind to me, polite and respectful. The way she looks at me is like looking at a younger generation, making me feel very warm in her body. In the end, my parents were convinced by me and agreed to the marriage, asking for a dowry of 80,000 yuan. As I still have my brother, they didn't give me any more dowry. The down payment for the wedding room was made by my mother-in-law. Before my parents could discuss the name, she decisively wrote my husband and I's names on the property certificate. My mother once warned me not to live under the same roof as my mother-in-law as much as possible, in order to avoid sharp conflicts between them. She believed that men would not side with their wives, just like she never lived with my brother and sister-in-law. However, there was no need for me to think too much. After we had our wedding, my mother-in-law is living with us now, and I managed to hire her. I went back to my husband's hometown for the Chinese New Year for the first time, and saw that my mother-in-law had raised more than 10 old hens. I thought the taste was bad, and upon seeing this, my mother-in-law immediately moved the chicken coop near the vegetable garden. At that time, it wasn't until I got pregnant and called her to tell her the good news, and the next day I saw that she had taken a lot of trouble to bring these old hens to the city. Hey, these chickens in the city claim to be local chickens, but in fact, many of them are fake. Mom ate them right away. These are all vegetables I raised from the ground, as well as millet. While studying the recipe and trying to make the chicken soup more delicious, the mother-in-law hit her son's hand with chopsticks and said, "Hey, that's for your wife to drink. You eat meat. Don't compete with your daughter-in-law." Upon seeing this scene, I was deeply moved, and immediately made up my mind to keep my mother-in-law. At first, my mother-in-law was unwilling, and said she was messy and had poor hygiene habits. Therefore, my mother-in-law served me and gave me a baby. Under her care, I recovered well after giving birth, and was able to work before taking maternity leave. Even my mother, who had always had objections to my mother-in-law, had nothing to say. But there are unexpected circumstances. 1 year ago, my mother-in-law fell ill and became very seriously ill. Although it was not a terminal illness, surgery was needed, and the cost of treatment was around 100,000 yuan. At that time, my husband invested in a project in order to earn more money to support his family. I saw my husband, who had always been calm and the backbone of the family, collapse at the hospital entrance, burying his head in his arms and shrugging his shoulders. Although I didn't hear his cry, I didn't even think about it. I walked over and patted his shoulder, and softly told him, "It's okay." Upon hearing my words, he froze and looked at me for more than 10 minutes, then held me in his arms and said, "Yuner, countless words cannot express my gratitude, and I know that promises cannot represent everything. I am willing to write you an IOU." Upon hearing his words, I gave him a blank look and said, "Who do you think I am? It's my mother-in-law who needs help." Since this money was a dowry given to me by my parents, I thought it over, and decided to tell them. Unfortunately, is it useful to have a promissory note between husband and wife? Once you borrow it, the money won't come back. Yuner, I naturally know my parents' troubles. They are worried about my marriage, and want to leave me a way out. Although I have a good relationship with my sister-in-law, I tried my best to persuade my mother, and analyzed the truth with her. "Mom, since you dissuade me from the perspective of profit and loss, I will also analyze it from the perspective of profit and loss. My eldest son is 5 years old this year, and my second son is 2 years old this year, both of whom need to be taken care of. If my mother-in-law can't get well, and no one can take care of me anymore, what should I do? Due to my sister-in-law, it is impossible to expect my mother to take care of the children. So I will become a full-time wife." At that time, my annual income was around 80,000 yuan, which means I would lose so much money after resigning for more than a year. Moreover, at the age of 2 children, I asked again, "This is your son-in-law's biological mother. He knows I have this money in my hand. If I don't save my life..." In fact, my original intention of saving my mother-in-law was not for anything else. Just for her worth it. She was kind to me and my child. After listening to me, my mother stopped speaking and stopped interfering with my decisions. When I handed over my bank card to my mother-in-law, she cried even more heartbroken than my husband. "Mom, If you really want to thank me, get better quickly. I'm still waiting for you to take care of my child. Those two little guys are asking me for a grandmother all day long." Everyone laughed. And in the end, my mother-in-law underwent the surgery as scheduled, and the recovery effect was good. Now that 1 year has passed, my mother-in-law's body has almost recovered, and she is starting to continue taking care of her grandson. The family is full of laughter, and my husband is also full of enthusiasm.